against your 401k, and you take that borrowed money and you purchase gold and silver with it. That's what you do. So that when the time comes, which may be in the next year or so, that the U.S. Congress passes these laws, that there will be no money for them to convert into U.S. Treasuries in your 401k. So that's something for you to consider if you have a 401k. Okay, then now, the next thing to talk about is this global European economic bulletin issued the recent public announcement, because they have a subscription service, but they always, which is I think €200 a year, and I don't subscribe to it. But it they put up a sort of like a public, should we say, sample of what is actually in the actual report. And in this one, which came out on December the 16th, they talked about what they foresee happening in the future of the United States. This is from this year, 2012, until the year 2016. So that's a 5-year time span. And the headline is this is referring to the United States government, an insolvent and ungovernable United States. So the three things that they focus on is around three key areas in their book: U.S. institutional deadlock and the breakup of the traditional two-party system. Now it has to be remembered, well actually probably nobody even knows this, that the two-party system was set up by the bankers, the criminal banking people, way back when, in order to distract the American people. And these are the words of an American banker. This is something that I read. There was a quote of the head of the American Banking Association when they had their annual general meeting in I think it was 1932. And at this particular annual general meeting, he said, "We have set up the two-party system as a distraction for the American people so that we can proceed with our plans without them taking any notice of it." So if the traditional two-party system breaks up, this will be a significant, shall we say, event, to say the very least. Now, I'm pretty sure that the criminal power elite have plans as to what to do if and when the two-party system breaks up. And I'm sure it's not going to be something that we can be very, shall we say, eager to look forward to. However, I am saying that the nation state is smashing itself to pieces. And not only is this inevitable, it is also welcome. But the point I'm trying to make in the whole theme of these Mobuku Chronicles is to talk about what is going to replace the nation state and the two-party system. And I will be talking about that at length in future episodes. Okay, so the next key area they focus on is the unstoppable spiral of recession, depression, and inflation, all occurring at the same time. And the third one is the breakdown of the United States socio-political fabric, which is to be welcomed, because the socio-political fabric is rotten and extremely threadbare, and it has been for a long time. In fact, I can remember giving an interview over 30 years ago. When was it? It must have been 1980. Yeah, 80. So it was over 30 years ago. And I said that the social fabric of the United States needs to be rent asunder. Now, I had different reasons for saying that at that time, because I had no idea about all this criminal corruption in high places, especially in the banking system, not to mention other, shall we say, areas of the United States government. No, I based that on the fact that I knew that from my macrobiotic understanding and knowledge and studies that the American social fabric was rotten because of the food, the dietary intake, based on, as it is, on meat and potatoes. And that has proven to be the case in terms of degenerative illnesses of all kinds are rampant and increasing. Now, pursuant to that particular, I think that's all I got to say about what the Global European Anticipation Bulletin has to say, except they do say that that the success with which the revolt of the middle class and the young TP, I don't know who TP is, and OWS, which is obviously Occupy Wall Street. So the success that they have met is explained by these objective developments, and the coming years will see these trends get worse. The weakness of the 2011 U.S. economy and society is, they say paradoxically, and I say it's not paradoxical at all, because the rescue attempts weren't actually rescue attempts at all. As far as the economy goes, they were basically rescue attempts to keep the criminal banking system and the bankers operating, because they're all insolvent. I mean, every single bank, especially the major banks in the United States, are all insolvent. They're all walking dead banks. You know, Citibank, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs. They all pretty much, well, they all are all insolvent, period, because they carry huge derivatives, notional value derivatives, in the trillions of dollars. I mean, the multiple trillions of dollars, 90 trillion and something like that. I mean, that's just one bank. Not collectively, I think it's something like 600 trillion. So, you know, they're simply on life support. It's like what the Federal Reserve is doing with pouring these, what actually is a pitiful amount compared to the amount of derivatives out there. I think it's something like 25 trillion that they poured into the banking system to keep it alive. It's like trying to keep a corpse, a dead body, alive by giving it blood transfusions. Yeah, it's not going to work. So the only reason why these banks haven't already collapsed is because the public perception hasn't woken up to the fact that they're all dead, and people have not pulled their money out, which they've already started to do with regard to the Greek situation with their banking system. There's been a run on the banks there. But of course everybody thinks Greece is in a worse position than the United States, which is actually not the case. The United States is in a much worse position than Greece. Now, so they say the TP, and I really don't know who the TP are. Third party, I guess. Tea Party. That's who it is. Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street have therefore a bright future ahead of them, since the wrath of 2011 will become the rage of 2012. Now, these people do not have a bright future ahead of them unless they pay attention to what I'm saying. This is absolutely categorically the case, because there's no possibility of having any changes made through the voting booth. It's not going to happen. Okay, so this radically different arrangement that I'm going to be talking about will have to become more widely known and discussed and debated and clarified if there's going to be any real positive change. Anyway, we'll see what happens down the road. So that's that. Now, pursuant to the meat thing, the meat, I talked about the consequences of eating meat at length over the course of the, probably 3 or 4 episodes. And I said that the continuation of the practice of the eating of meat as staple food was unsustainable, basically from a purely shall we say, environmental and ecological and resource base, on that basis, that it was a tremendous squandering of resources. And earlier this week, the United Nations came out with a report, and in it they strongly urge all governments of the world to start implementing policies to bring about the reduction in the consumption of meat by their populations. So obviously, the United Nations see the writing on the wall with regard to this. And other people do too. I mean, I'm not the only one who's noticed this and pointed it out. I mean, John Robbins pointed it out back in 1989. And the only question is, I mean, I didn't read the report because I read the synopsis and so forth, and I thought, well, it's one thing for the United Nations to put out a report suggesting strongly that the governments of the world start implementing policies to bring about the reduction of the consumption of meat by their populations. But whether they are in fact going to do that is another question. And I doubt it, because as I pointed out earlier, the policy of coercing people, and this coercion has been subtle and it's not, and very, very, shall we say, subtle is the word, has been very subtle, and people don't realize that they've been coerced into the eating of meat, through propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, and so forth and so on. Because that's what keeps people from getting sick, and that's what keeps them bound up with the medical system, and that's what keeps them trapped in the system. And of course, it's a very profitable system, especially for the pharmaceutical companies, who last year 20 of them made $1 billion profit each. All right, but I went into that earlier. So that was one item that I wanted to bring to your attention. And the other one is that we're having these saber rattling going on in the Middle East and North Africa. Because it started last spring with the Egyptian uprising and Mubarak being forced to leave office, and the Libyan president Gaddafi being, shall we say, a victim of war that was brought against the Libyan government by NATO. That was an act of war, is what took place there. And of course the Moroccan president, leaving